Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the technical sessions number 3 of the International Outcome-Based Education Symposium hosted by Ahsanullah University of Science and Technology, Bangladesh. My name is Rizauddin bin Ramli. I'm from the Department of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. I will be your rapporteur today. Our first session, our session today, the first session today will be chaired by Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris bin Ismail. Let me read a brief biography of Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris Ismail. Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris Ismail is a professor at the Kuliah of Engineering, and currently he is the Deputy Rector, Academic and Internalizations, as well as the co-chair of the UNESCO Chair in Future Studies, Anticipation of Sustainability and Wellbeing at the International Islamic University, IIUM. Professor Ahmad Faris served as the Dean of the Engineering from 1997 until 2009, and also from 2009 until 2020. He was also the co-chairman of the Malaysian Council of Engineering Deans from 2007 until 2009. Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris obtained his Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering in 1988, from the University of Houston, Texas, USA, and PhD in Engineering from Rice University, Texas, USA in 1993. Professor Ismail received the Federation of the Universities of the Islamic World tributes. He was a visiting academic at the University of Southern Queensland, and he was a visiting scientist at the Graduate School of Engineering, Kyoto University, Japan. He is also the chief editor of the IIUM Engineering Journal. Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris has been invited as a keynote speaker for various conferences and congress. He has been conducting workshops for the OBE and on the outcome-based education, OBE, academic self-assessment, and etc. It's quite long biography, sorry, I cannot read all. So now I would like to request Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris to take over the session chair. The floor is yours, Professor.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Engineer Dr. Rizauddin Ramli from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, National University, Malaysia. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to everyone. I am very happy to be part of this International OBE Symposium 2021, organized by the Ahsanullah University of Science and Technology, along with the partners UKM Malaysia, IIUM Malaysia, and UniKL Malaysia. So let me welcome everybody to the technical session number 3. There will be 3 presentations in this session. The first one will be from Professor Engineer Dr. Muhammad Shuhaimi Abdul Rahman from UKM Malaysia. The second presentation will be by Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmad Chowdhury, the former professor at University Malaya, Malaysia, and currently professor at Ahsanullah University Science and Technology. And the third presentation will be by Professor Dr. Azharul Karim from Queensland University of Technology, Australia. I guess I would like to set the rule because we have a limited time. So the total time for each presenter will be about 40 minutes. So maybe I would suggest that the presentation will be around half an hour, and then we'll follow by 10 minutes Q&A. So with that, let me introduce our first presenter today, which is Professor Dr. Muhammad Shuhaimi Abdul Rahman.
Okay.
How are you, Professor Shuhaimi?
Fine, Prof. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
All right. So Professor Muhammad Shuhaimi Abdul Rahman began his career at University Kebangsaan Malaysia, the National University of Malaysia, as a lecturer in the year 2007. In January 2010, Professor Shuhaimi was appointed as an associate professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering, Electronics and Systems. His specialization is in the field of electronic engineering, specifically in optical communication systems. He has been involved in many impactful researches, academic writing, teaching, supervision, leadership positions, registered prototype and innovation, policy development, and community services. Professor Shuhaimi was the Deputy Dean Academic in the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment before being promoted to Director of Alumni Relations Center at University Kebangsaan Malaysia. He is also a professional engineer registered under the Board of Engineers Malaysia. To date, he has produced many PhD and master's graduates, several researchers, publications, and patents. He has led more than 10 impact research projects, held more than 5 impactful community programs, held more than 10 administration positions, and being involved in more than 5 important committees. During his tenure at UKM, he was appointed as the appraiser grants of the Industrial Research Scheme, IGS, and was involved in giving advice in the Ministry of Health. So I guess with all this vast experience, as well as his practical experience in OBE at the faculty, he is very well suited for today's presentation on the topic of assessment of the program educational objectives. So now I would like to respectfully request Professor Engineer Dr. Muhammad Shuhaimi Abdul Rahman to deliver your presentation. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Ahmad Faris, as our chairman for today's session. And thank you, Prof. Rizaldin, as rapporteur for the session too. Okay, my name is Muhammad Shuhaimi Abdul Rahman. I'm a director, Alumni Relations Center from University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And I was Deputy Dean of Academic and Alumni before being promoted to these current positions. Okay, so today my presentation is on program educational objective, PEO for Malaysians engineering graduate. Okay, so I'm covering from the establishment, assessment, and improvement in order to have one robust academic management system. Okay. Okay. This presentation explains on how the alumni could contribute to the betterment of the academic programs. Okay. The involvement of alumni in supporting and providing contribution voluntarily to the university is important for maintaining and expanding university development. Okay, investing in alumni relation can provide a high returns on investment for an institutions. They can contribute in many ways. For example, financials, expertise, opportunities, and also feedback for the academic programs improvement. Okay, for examples, several weeks ago, we handed over 500,000 medical equipment to the hospital that was collected from our alumni. Okay, so they are actually the catalyst for the university sustainability. Okay, the most important to the university is to what I call to create one organic environment or engagement between the alumni and alma mater. Back to our topic. Okay, the alumni input by means of the PEO survey can be used to improve the program by evaluating the academic management system, and further to design initiative in implementing for student improvement or student competency improvements. Okay, PO is actually a long-term target attainment or expectation by the program, and the strategy in terms to get a good inputs from them should be emphasized from the day one in their study until the graduation, and can be extended up to their when they are in a workplace. Okay, this is the ultimate goal of the student attainments. Okay, they show off the attributes when they are works in a certain companies. Okay, PEO is also define the uniqueness of our students by introducing special attributes which make them differ from other graduates from other universities. Okay, from graduates from other universities. Okay, I would like to share with you some activities with our alumni, which organized by faculty and also the universities. Okay, the universities need to foster a stronger bond with members of alumni to garner better sites. Okay, for assessment in the future, to organizing many impactful activities with them. Okay, so for example, these are some photos that describe the activities with our alumni. Okay, we can organize, for example, flood admission charity campaigns. Okay, virtual runs with them. Okay, lecture from alumni lecture, alumni mentoring system, and many more. And this is one impactful program which we supply medical components to the university, to our hospital, worth around $500,000. Okay, okay, all right. Okay, let's back to our topic presentations. Okay, first of all, what is the program educational objective, PEO? Okay, the program educational objective are statements that describe, okay, the intended quality and attributes of graduates upon completions of the program are in alignment with the mission of IHL after a few years of graduations, normally 3 to 5 years lah. Okay, it is actually the instrument to monitor the effectiveness of academic management system by evaluating the performance of alumni which are graduated more than 3 years. Okay, there are the statements particularly designed to ensure the program graduates are well equipped and are well equipped with broad foundations of theoretical and practical knowledge in various engineering areas of interest, and to prepare them for the rapidly changing engineering settings. Okay, so this attribute can be guideline for the program to plan activities and initiatives to develop student competencies. Okay, it must be developed. I mean, the statement of the PEO must be developed through the structured, well-planned, and systematic process, whereby the internal and external requirement have been considered in identifying demanded attributes or the most well-known. Okay, in order to ensure the graduates are highly sought by the industries. Okay, and the most important is the PO must be aligned or in line with mission of the university. Okay, it can be a guideline for the program to design student activities. For instance, the PO attributes such as leadership or professionalism or social services or social community can be made a key point in PO statement and the initiative or activities are organized accordingly. It can be a club, society, etc., etc., in order to harness the attributes among the students' body. The impact is therefore the vision and mission of IHL and faculty are achieved, and the domain has been emphasized in the student curriculum and co-curriculum when they involve with the programs. Okay, so this is about the holistically view how we embark these attributes in the academic management systems. Okay, all right. Okay, before we go for the detail, let's look the expectation from the EAC or Washington Accord panel evaluators. Okay, so there are three components we'll be looking for, which are establishments of the statement or attributes, okay, assessment of the PO attainment, and lastly, how we get benefit from this assessment to betterment of the programs. Okay, basically the attributes or intended qualities must be defined and meet with the internal vision, mission, and educational goals, and external requirements. So where the inputs coming from the stakeholder, IAP, parents, alumni, students, and etc. Okay, so and here are some key points that I could share with audience. You can read them all, and basically it's what I call representing to these three segments. And when we establish this statement properly by considering all the internal and external requirement, we should publish the poster or whatever in the strategic location, for example, on board or in our website, Facebook, and etc. Okay, so during the accreditation visits, the panel will be seeking for these three segments. Okay, I will go in detail for this. Okay, firstly, the establishment of the PO statement by identifying the most recommended attributes. Okay, to ensure that our program is always relevant to the current needs. Okay, it must be aligned with internal and external requirement. The panel will be seek for the processes and also evidences. And how do the attributes be formularized based on the structured and systematic processes such as meeting, survey, research if you have, and so on. Okay, and this attribute and statement of the PO will distinguish the graduates with those graduated from the other universities. Okay, and secondly, the assessment of the PO attainment by using either direct or indirect method. It's up to the IHL to decide it. Okay, the method should be reflective to the attainment of the alumni. This is very important. It can also involve or evaluated by their employer, and this result can be correlated to perform some goals, such as assessing the academic curriculum structure, competency of the graduates, achievement of mission and visions, and also the CQI plan. Okay, so this is a big task for the those who are involved in setting these attributes, because it's actually evaluate the performance of the academic management system. Okay, and the third one, the last one, the important part, which is define the actions taken based on the result analysis. So after we gain result from the analysis, we need to extract any deficiency and further design any action to improve the programs and to improve the cohort. Okay, all right. These are the question type with the PO attribute based on my experience as the EAC panel. I will not discuss everything you can see here. Okay, but basically it's related to these three segments: establishment, assessment, and also the CQI. Okay, and the PO must be developed via structured and well-planned process. It must facilitate the input from the internal and external, and this figure shown the standard, what I call the establishment and assessment of the what I call the POs and learning outcomes cycles. And you can see here these three components are interlinked, or what I call interconnected to each other, meaning that if the CQI for each inner and outer loop executed effectively, so the program is seen to be sustainable. Any deficiency that happened in the program can be repaired, what we can say that automatically by the system in order to improve the programs. Okay, so the student itself work as a self-healing. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm proceed with the establishment of the PO, sharing my experience how we determine the most recommended or most popular attributes among the university. This is the benchmark, or we can call as the small research that have been done by my team in University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And we have benchmarked with 15 universities in Malaysia, and we clustering them into 6 segments. Okay, research university, non-research university, semi-government, private university, college university, and foreign branch university. We extracted all the attributes from their website, and we do WEN analysis based on the university cluster. For example, for research university, we extracted all the attributes from USM, UM, UKM, UPN, and UTM, and we do and we plot diagram, what we call as WEN analysis, and we identify what's overlap between the attributes from these universities. Okay, for RU University, there are 2 most popular attributes. Okay, competency and also ethics. Okay, for the non-research university, competency and leadership. Okay, they are the most popular among this cluster university. Okay, cluster-based university. Okay, for semi-government university, competency and leadership. Okay, private university also competency and leaderships. Okay, they non-RU, semi-government university and private university, they have they set same attributes. Okay, for college university, competency and engineering knowledge, and finally foreign branch university, for example, Curtin, Monash, Nottingham, they set for the aim for the leadership and also sustainability. Okay, when we look into this table, there are more than 25 attributes. Okay, they are listed or they are stipulated in the PO university respectively. And we do the okay, when we reanalyze again all the cluster, we overlap, we do WEN analysis to all the cluster. Okay, and we come out with this figure. And from here, there are four attributes that overlap, okay, to all universities in Malaysia. The first one is knowledgeable in engineering. Okay, the keyword is we extracted from the respective PO statement. Okay, competency, high ethics, value, and professionalism, individual leadership, teamwork. Okay, these 4 are the most popular or most recommended by the university. And we believe this university have their own IEP or advisory panel who continuously what I call advice to the program and giving the input what are the best or required or recommended by the industries. Okay, so meaning that this figure representing the input from the university, from the industries, from this cluster university. Okay, so we are knowledgeable and competency, we can pull them together because competency is comprising of knowledgeable and high skill in that particular field. So, and finally, we come out with our own statement, which considering this most popular attribute plus mission and vision, and plus input and feedback from our stakeholders. Okay, so this is the process. This is the process of establishment of PEO for National University of Malaysia, specifically for engineering faculty lah. Okay, Okay, for PEO1, engineering or architect who has character and ethic as well as high professionalism contribute to the national aspirations. Okay, ethics and professionalism coming from the research, from the benchmark. National aspiration is from our mission and visions. Okay, for the PO number 2, engineering architect who is competent in respective engineering practice that current what I call current and future needs. Okay, the competent is coming from the benchmarking or small research that I did before. The PEO number 3, engineer architect who has a creative and innovative entrepreneurial leadership qualities that are local. Local means combination of global and local. Okay, so creative, innovative coming from our mission and vision, because we are a research university. So our graduate must possess this creative, innovative. Entrepreneurial skill is suggested by our industrials committee, and leadership quality or skill is from the benchmark. So it's covering all the process. Okay, the benchmarking, the vision, mission, and also the input from our stakeholders. Okay, so we publish this in many places, many strategic places, in our websites, in entrance at our universities, at our faculties, in strategy area. I mean, foyer in the area, student area. Okay, okay, and right. And we come out with many activities to strengthen attributes, okay, that's stipulated in the statements, okay. So this is the what I call initiative that has been implemented, okay, at the faculty and department in order to embrace these attributes among our students, okay. All right, they are covering all the technical and soft skill aspect. Okay, so the next stage is the assessment. Okay, okay. So how we assess these attributes? Okay, in our graduates. Okay, so to make this thing easier, so we conduct an online survey. Okay, for those who want to go in detail to view the question that we ask our alumni, you can go to this link. Okay, okay. This is our first page. And we design our survey directly, okay, meaning that the question we ask our alumni or graduates indirect. Okay, for example, in order to examine their process with the leadership skill, we are not ask them directly whether they are having these skills, but we ask them about the positions, the currently position at the firms or company, how many employee under his supervisions, okay, any committee that that he or she lead in the company, and many more lah. So by keying the data, we can evaluate either our graduates achieve the target or not. Okay, so this is the direct manner in conducting alumni survey. Okay, there are many methods to assess the PO attainment, whether it's met with the PO indirectly. The PO attainment also reflect to the PO attainment. Also, you can ask the graduates directly. Directly, meaning that the what I call the methods is classified as indirect. Okay, it was versa. Okay, if the method direct, the question indirect. If the method indirect, the question that we ask the graduate is indirect. Okay, so for indirect assessment, we ask the question directly. Okay, are you possesses these attributes? Okay, so they will tick yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. But this one is not reflectively enough to represent the PO attainment. So we need to complement it with the other survey which verified by the employer. Okay, so we need to blast another survey to verify either this our graduate whether possess that particular attributes or not. Okay, so the most important thing is the survey is reflective with reliable tools. Okay, whatever mechanism you choose, okay, the result must be reflective to the attainment of the PEOs. Okay, then the action letter, for example, for the CQI is meaningful, okay, because we can identify the gaps or deficiency that happen in our programs. Again, if we cannot achieve this criteria or characteristic that I mentioned about, so it is meaningless, lah. Okay, so the two characteristics must be obeyed. The first one is reflectivity, and the second one is reliability. All right. So this is the example. I show you some example of question that we ask via online survey. This is for PO number 3, leaderships. PO2, competency. And for competency, we ask them about, have you received any awards, recognition, appreciations from employer, companies, professional bodies within or outside the countries? Okay. So question number 2, if yes, please give me name of the awards. Okay, there is a verification for the any information that key in by our graduates. Okay, so this is the direct method, and we ask them indirectly. Okay, all right. So okay, so we need to when we receive the data from alumni or graduates, so we need to analyze them. So we form a committee to establish the performance indicator. Okay, so the presentation in Bahasa, because I just extracted from my articles, but however I do elaborate this in the next slide. Okay, so I give one example for the PO number 1. Okay, engineer or architect who has character and ethics, okay, as well as high proportionalism, and contributes to the national aspirations. Okay, okay, for okay, so this is the performance indicator for the ethics, for the attributes ethics. Okay, so as stipulated in the PO number 1, we have 3 attributes: ethics, professionalism, and national aspirations. So so I just extracted one what I call attributes, which is ethics. Okay, and here are the performance indicator. Okay, performance indicator number 1: have you ever been charged undisciplined? Okay, so I symbol as a delta. Okay, what is any, if I give a, we also ask them, we examine them with a certain scenario. What if bukan, not what is, what if any supplier contractor invite you for lunch, do you accept the invitation? Okay, okay, just a simple simple question. Okay, so what is your principle of ethics? Okay, punctuality, honesty, knowledge sharing, environmentalism, blah blah, etc etc. Okay, so for this ethics, so we believe based on our discussion, we can come out with any performance indicator which representing for ethics, but this is decided by our committee. A lot more can be put here. Okay, so we believe all this must be possessed by our students or alumni. Okay, so we use logic or n. Okay, for this ethic we use logic n, meaning that they must meet all these requirements. Okay, so they should not be charged for undisciplinary. They should answer this question properly for question number 2, and number 3, they must take all the what I call the characteristic for principle and ethics. Okay, which is representing themselves. Okay, so I'm using logic n. Okay, so meaning that they must fulfill all these requirements. Unless they're not, we can say they are not attain these attributes. Okay, so from the answer that giving from the inputs from the survey, so for those who attain all these requirement or criteria, we considered yes, okay, attend for these particular attributes. Okay, right. Okay, there are many more performance indicators related to the attributes that we list down accordingly lah. Okay, for leaderships, for what I call professionalism, entrepreneurial, and to connect each of these performance indicators, we use logic and or. And I believe the other university having their own what I call innovative method in order to evaluate what I call data from the respondent. Okay, so this is ours. Okay, from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, from my faculty. All right. Okay. In terms of the numbers of the respondent, okay. So we received many what I call respondent from our alumni. This is very important. But we classified them into numbers of the graduation of the what I call graduation year, before 3 years and after 3 years. Okay, so here we can, it seems that 50% is before 3 years and 50% after 3 years. Okay, after 3 years upon graduation. Okay, so this is the result for the PO number 1. Okay, based on the performance indicator that I mentioned about just now. Okay, and the target achievement. Okay, for the ethics 100%, for the PO professionalism based on the performance indicator that we set. Okay, target achievement professionalism also berapa kat sini. Okay, there is a number here. Okay, professionalism 80%. Okay, our target 80%, actual achievement 85%, and for the national aspiration target 100%. The attainment of our alumni also 100%. Okay, a simple what I call analysis can be made lah from the attainment. Okay, this for the PO number 2, competency. Okay, performance target, our target of
Suhaimi,
yes.
I think you only have can we settle in about 2 minutes?
Okay, Prof, near end, Prof. No worries.
Okay, thank you.
Just have just few slides more. Okay. Okay, performance indicator, this one 50%, we achieved 70%. PO number 3, all these listed attribute, leaderships, innovative and creative, entrepreneurship. Okay, we set with a certain percentage and we achieve all this. Okay, so this is the overall picture of attainment, of alumni attainment for the PO from our PO survey results. Okay, and we plot the spider web. Okay, there are 2 spider web representing for graduates before 3 years and for the graduates above 5 years. Okay, so this is the cycle of the CQA. I'm not elaborate this because everyone know about the cycle. So based on the result, the most important thing that are looking for that look by the EAC panel is how we use the result from our survey in order to improve the program. Okay, to improve the student competency. Okay, and as a conclusion, this is my last slide, Prof. Okay. Conclusion number 1, okay, an assessment and review PO differences among Malaysian university is one way to recognize the skills and attributes needed by electrical and electronic engineering graduates. Majority EE engineering have at least 3 main domains identified throughout this research on public, private, foreign branch university in Malaysia. First, these electrical and electronic engineers required to be professionally qualified with in-depth knowledge in their respective fields. Secondly, employer needed talent engineers with leadership traits who can bring significant impact and changes to their organization. Thirdly, the engineers are seen by most in referring to many technical matters. It is therefore important for them to have high ethics and excellent professionalism in the professional background, and all these 3 qualities are attributes capable of building up the nation. Okay, number 2, the assessment of PO can be organized directly and indirectly and the respondent of alumni employers by using respondent from alumni or employers. The performance indicator must be set reflectively and logically, or using other algorithm can be to evaluate the PO attainment. And the last one is the PO attainment is useful to indicate the relevancy of the program and to evaluate the effectiveness of the academic management system and strengthen the attributes among the students. Okay, so that's all from me, Prof. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Shohaimi. I guess due to time limitation, we may entertain maybe one or two questions here. Of course, I think we learned a lot from your presentation. One thing that we keep reminding ourselves is all this need data. As you show, we need to collect good data, sufficient number of data, and then we need to analyze the data, and then we need to make some analysis and conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there is one person raising hand. I'm not sure whether he can ask directly. Dr. Akil. Yeah, there's two participants raising hand here. Are they able to? Akil, Asif Iqbal. Can they just?
Yes,
please.
Prof. He can.
Yeah. So can
Asif Iqbal, you can talk.
Yes, please.
Mr. Asif Iqbal, you can raise your question.
Yeah. Can they unmute?
I think. I mean, I allowed him to talk basically.
Yeah, Asif Iqbal, where are you?
Okay.
But while waiting
Asif
for
Iqbal.
that, there is a question. Yeah. Is he there, Asif?
Okay. I think he's not available. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. While waiting for that, there is one question, Prof. Shami, in the chat box.
Yeah.
Dr. Shah Murtaza is asking, what is the direct method to assess PEO?
Direct method is similar to what had been presented just now. We asking the respondent indirectly. Okay. I give an example. For example, if we want to assess the leadership attributes, okay, we are not assessing directly from them, asking whether they possesses this attribute or not. Okay, but we ask them in indirect way. For example, we ask them about the current positions of him or her in the companies, how many employers, or are they be appointed as a leader in any projects or R&D projects, and etc. So this is the way how we assess them directly. Okay, so please bear in mind it's contradict. If we are using direct method, the question will be indirectly asked them. Okay, if we choose indirectly method, that the question will be directly asked them. Okay. Okay.
I guess, Prof. Shami, there is a follow-up question on that in the chat box. I think Dr. Pradeep Kumar here. How to differentiate between direct and indirect method?
How to distinguish this both? Is the question the way how we questioning our alumni lah. Okay. Okay. So for indirect method, there are many ways, whether we are using what called survey, or we chip from the PO attainment. For example, we have the table that met between the PO and PEO. Okay, so by the PO attainment is extracted, okay, based on our analysis onto the PO attainment. This is another way to what we classify as indirect method to assess the PO. Okay, so that one is not by using surveys. But for the users, but if using survey, as I mentioned earlier, if we choose indirectly method, the question we ask our alumni directly. For example, okay, have you possesses these attributes? Okay, for example, leadership. He said yes. Okay, yes. Okay. We ask them about other skills. For example, professionalism. They say yes. Directly. Yeah. So without any verification or validations. Okay. But it can be used. Okay. Formally, this survey is not accepted by most of the EAC panel. So okay, even the practitioners also say that is not less accurate as compared to the direct method. But there is innovative in order to make this indirect method acceptable by giving by blasting another survey to the employers of our alumni. Okay, so we ask them whether this particular person having this skill or not. So if the alumni say yes, they possesses this attribute, then it's verified by the employer. Employer also say yes, this Ahmad or this Muhammad having this leadership skill. That's why I appointed is as a senior engineer. Let's say, and so you can say that. Okay, the survey now is acceptable. Okay, acceptable is very important because our further action is to do improvement onto our programs. Okay, so it must be reflective to the attainment of our alumni. Otherwise, okay, everything is meaningless. Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are out of time now.
Yes,
but there are a few related questions, Professor Amy. I think looks like that they want to discuss further with you. Maybe I would suggest that you can either continue the chatting with him, or you can email him, or letter. I think in the panel letter.
I will answer by chat with them. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have to move now. Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Amy. I think it's a very important and interesting topic, and I can see that being a director of alumni, I mean, can serve this purpose very well in terms of taking assessing the PEO. I think maybe other universities also would like to learn from that structure and setup. Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so let me now move to the second speaker. Our next presentation will be given by Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmad Chaudhry. He is a former professor at University of Malaya, Malaysia, and he is now as a professor at the Department of Mechanical and Production Engineering at Allah University of Science and Technology. So let me briefly mention his biography. Professor Imtiaz Ahmad Chaudhry graduated from Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology, BUET, in mechanical engineering in the year 1977. Later, Professor pursued Masters of Engineering at Asian Institute of Technology, AIT, Thailand, and Master of Science in Engineering at Arizona State University, USA. Professor Imtiaz Ahmad Chaudhry got his PhD from Dublin City University, Ireland. He taught both at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Malaya, Malaysia, and was actively involved in research since 1996. Professor Chaudhry research areas include traditional machining, non-traditional machining, injection molding, metal and plastic, and renewable energy with grants from University of Malaya and Ministry of Science and Technology, Malaysia. He has produced more than 12 PhD graduates and 12 master's graduates. He has published more than 140 journal papers. His age index is 35, has more than 5,500 citations, and he was one of the highest cited researchers at the Faculty of Engineering, University of Malaya. He has published 5 book chapters under Elsevier publication. He's the editor of a volume titled Finish Machining and Net Shape Forming, published under Elsevier. He is the editor-in-chief of the Encyclopedia of Renewable and Sustainable Materials, published in Material Science and Materials Engineering, Elsevier. He is an expert assessor for professional promotion in a number of international universities. He's also the reviewer of various international journals. Professor Imtiaz is a fellow of Institution of Mechanical Engineer and Chartered Engineers UK, and a life fellow of Institution of Engineers Bangladesh. So with that, Professor Imtiaz, I think I would like to welcome you and invite you to deliver your presentation on the topic of use and importance of assessment rubrics in outcome-based education. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your kind words about me. And I recognize you, and also probably we had meeting while I was in Malaysia. I recognize you very well. Thank you very much, Prof. And let me start my topic today. So, good morning for my Bangladeshi colleagues and the participants, and good afternoon for my Malaysian colleagues and participants, and elsewhere, who is not at the same time zone as we are here in Bangladesh. Today, my topic is importance of rubrics in OBE, outcome-based education. Why do we talk about rubrics? Because when we graduated, there was nothing about these rubrics. Professor used to grade according to their own perception. And students never complained. We graduated and we are doing well with whatever we have been given by the professors at that time. But with the changed scenario, with the changed educational objectives, educational system, the dynamics is changing. And so we have to change with time. And so what is rubrics? My topic will be all on this rubric, usefulness of the rubric in our education system, especially in engineering. So my content will be on the meaning of OBE, then definition of and the types of rubric, and how do we develop rubrics in engineering education. And I have taken one example from our existing or running practice of IDP assessment that I'll talk about. And ultimately at the end of conclusion, which I'll talk, I didn't put in the slide here. Now this is a slide. Why do we use rubric? So rubric, and now we have been talking about too much about the OBE system, outcome-based education, which is a theory that based each part of an educational system around something. There's something, nothing but our educational goals, which we expect the student to attain. And this is, I call it a COPO-based education. No, OBE, I term it as a COPO, course outcome and program outcome-based education. That's why we are all trying to match all our education, our result, everything matching CO and PO. And so since PO is playing a very important part in the OBE system, program objectives, each program has certain number of objectives in line with the Washington Accord. And so we must measure this PO explicitly, very clearly, very meticulously, and it must be measured directly for each and every subject of a program, and each and every semester, what you offer. That is very important. So how do we measure this PO? This PO can be measured by, we know the marking scheme, previously what used to follow. We set exam questions, we give the marking schemes for question number A, part 1, something, so on and so forth. Other than that, also sound rubric system is very essential now. It's coming and replacing some of the conventional marking system, rubrics. So the PO measurement must be done, supported by sound rubrics, and as well as the marking system, what we've been practicing for so long. And also all POs must be covered in the program. If we have a program of mechanical and production engineering, whatever the PO, all POs must be measured. And the weightage of each PO is up to the individual Institute of Higher Learning, how much weightage we give to PO1 to PO4. So now let me talk about the rubric. So rubric is very important in terms of the OBE education, in terms of the PO measurement. And we have one, this is a scenario of just an example I've given. Let's say number 1, CLO1, we have the matching with PO1. How do we measure this one in terms of the assignment, test, final exam, and so on and so forth? And if you look here, the second set of the table, we have the program final exam question and final exam question number 2, final exam question number 3, and final exam question number 4. So we have to design also the course. We have to write the course outcome also with respect to the requirement of the PO. And each course should have, in my view, not more than 4. Easy to measure, will not make things complicated. If you have so many COs, the assessment is another factor we have to always think of. So if you have 4 COs, measure 4 COs by 4 questions in the final, give 4 questions in the final, we measure, life will be easy for the lecturer, and assessment also will be easy. Anyway, now what is rubric? Rubric is nothing but I call it a tool, is an assessment tool or a grading tool. So whatever the students produce as per our requirement, be whether it is an assignment, whether it is a questionnaire, or whether it's questionnaire or any other form of things which we judge the students' achievement, that we assess through this, typically through this rubric. And if I read this one, used to promote consistent application of learning expectation. These have been talked, we have been talking about this one since yesterday. Learning objectives or the learning standard in the classroom. To measure their attainment against a consistent set of criteria. So this is what important. Number 2, to measure their attainment against a consistent set of criteria. So this consistent set of criteria must be defined in the rubric. So that's the importance of the rubric. We measure against a consistent set of criteria. Let's say we have a thesis paper, thesis for undergraduate students, and we have 50 students, 50 thesis, and we have, let's say, 10 or 15 lecturers assessing the thesis. How do we make the consistency among the lecturers? They give the marks consistently with each other, and the variation or standard deviation among the lecturers also has to be as minimum as possible, so that the students are not penalized. So this is also one of the aspects of the OBE. OBE, there is check and balance between the lecturers' perception and the students' objectives or the students' expectation. That's what we make balance in the OBE. Rubrics has got 4 essential features. I consider mainly the 3, 2 to 4. One is the description of the descriptive title. Of the task the students are expected to produce or perform. Then the scale or scoring that describes the levels of mastery. So the score could be, let's say, we can have the good, better, best, or let's say 50 to 60% one score, 60 to 70% one band, and let's say 70 to 90%, 100% another band. So that's what we call it score, scale scoring. Component dimension, students are to attain in completing the assignments, type of skills, type of knowledge, what. So that we have to define, we have to describe in each and every rows, every columns of the rubrics, and description of the performance quality, performance descriptor. So this is what we have to write. The lecturer has to describe all this performance quality, depending on what kind of assessment we are doing, whether we are assessing a thesis student, thesis grade, we are assessing capstone project, we are assessing industrial design project, we are assessing assignment. That where the performance criteria will vary according to the end product. Now, I have given in a tabular form here, the whole thing has been shown here in the tabular form. If I say here, so task description, first row is the description of the task title. Let's say if it is a capstone project, if it is a thesis. Now, the grading system is scaling. Number 2 is the scoring. The scale or scoring, it could be unsatisfactory, it could be developing. So one extreme is the unsatisfactory, and another extreme, best one is the exemplary. So if this is 100, this may be 50%. And in between you have to arrange what band. Now this is, it could be not necessarily 4, it could be more. And here we have the performance criteria on the column, each column we have the performance criteria. This is what known as the dimension. This is known as the dimension, component dimension. This is the dimension, performance criteria, and this could be many. It could be many, probably 4 to 11. We have performance description for each and every, let's say if you talk about the thesis, literature review, what we expect the students to produce in the literature review. So this we can have, let's say first one could be our current reference, then the proper citation, then the research gap. So this, whether this all three elements are there. But depending on that, if all three elements are covered, then we can say 4. If any one, any 2, then could be 3. If so, that's how we divide the and columns and rows depending on our end product and requirement. So dimension and the descriptor. So here we describe the number 4. This is number 4. This is number 2, number 3, and number 4 descriptors. So we have to write, if this is the all with respect to, let's say, very little, the maximum attainment, most, less attainment, and in between we write in words and the others in terms of better. Gradually, if you move toward the right, it will, this students' expectation or is the assessment scale or score will increase as you move from the left to the right. So that's what I will talk about. I'm talking a description of the performance quality, a clear idea about what must be done to demonstrate certain level of mastery, understanding what the profession excellent, XYZ. If I compare this with thesis, I have 3 components, XYZ. One is the citation, one is the current reference, one is the gap in the literature, that could be XYZ. And then any 2, XY or YZ, our 4 should be either covering only current site reference, that could be X, or other components could be XYZ, it's only single. Rubrics can be used for any assignment also in a course. We can use also apply rubrics in the course also, or for any way in which you ask the students to demonstrate what they have to learn. So basically, that's why it is outcome-based education. We ask the student what they've learned, and based on that we assess, and not that what we perceive the lecturers. They can also be used to facilitate self and peer reviews of the student work. Also, this can be used for the peer reviews among themselves. That's what is done in IDP. And the students among themselves, they keep their judgment of grade among their peers. And that also we take into consideration in the final grading. Rubrics, another important aspect, it could be analytic or it could be holistic. Holistic rubric, from engineering perception, I see it as a macro level, and the analytic one is the micro level, in depth. If you talk about the analytic rubric, very much in depth, holistic kind of superficial kind of macro level, overall achievement we look at through the holistic rubric. So I'm going to describe one by one this holistic and the analytic one. Holistic rubric is kind of one-dimensional rubric, single criteria rubric to assess participants' overall achievement or an activity, on an activity or item-based predefined achievement levels. Performance descriptions are written in paragraph and usually in full sentence. So descriptors, what we have seen in the various rows in one column, that the performance descriptions in one paragraph and usually in full sentence. Research paper. Now, if you talk about research paper, how do we apply and adapt the holistic rubrics in a research paper? So this I have applied both the research paper from the holistic approach and also from the analytic approach. So we know the difference between these two. If I apply the holistic, I said holistic is a macro level, overall achievement, not going in depth into the weakness and strength of the students in each and every aspect. If I talk about the thesis, it will be easy to follow. Thesis overall is a holistic approach. If we, let's say in terms of the literature review is only one component, there are methodology, there are discussion, should be other components coming as well. So in the literature review, we can pinpoint where is the weakness of the students through analytic approach, but holistically we cannot. So that's the beauty of the analytic rubric. So if it is a holistic approach, then let's say we have a thesis research paper, and the maximum score, the paper demonstrates complete understanding and execution of the assigned objectives. If you look at the extreme minimum scale, research paper demonstrates limited understanding. So the maximum complete understanding, limited understanding, and execution of the assigned objectives. So this is one we have the scale, one on the extreme right and one on the extreme left. One on the extreme right is the maximum, one on the extreme left is the minimum. In between, how many? That depends on each and every institute of higher learning, whether we have 4 here or whether we have a smaller band. It depends on the individual institution. There is no. So that's how we look at complete understanding and execution of the assigned objective. Their thesis statement argument is clearly stated. If you look here, the statement argument is simplistic, unoriginal, and or not present at all. So in two extreme limit, in between we write complete understanding, just immediately it's considerable understanding, some understanding. So this is how we write the complete paragraph of each and every scoring aspect. So it's better if you can have the 1, 2 extreme, and then in between we just fill in the gaps with our relative words, which sits nicely in between these 2 gaps. Considerable understanding, this is the some understanding is here. This is from perspective of holistic approach. Now, what is the advantage of holistic approach? Emphasis on effectiveness of the paper rather than the ability of the writer. So we look at the effectiveness of the paper rather than the ability of the writer. So this is not we don't want. We want the OBE system, outcome-based education. We want to see what the students are producing. So it's not it doesn't look into the aspects of or the ability of the writer in terms of what is produced. Less choice of assessor to make. It's kind of direct in we don't have any choice. More intuitive to score, less complex, and the disadvantage is the not conducive to feedback to OA criteria, inability to OA criteria, and may be difficult to assess when students have a wide swath of skill level, wide band of skill level. If the student band, I said this is an overall kind of scenario. So, but there is a wide band, sets a band of skill level among the students, then definitely this will not work. Consider using holistic rubric. The time doesn't allow for in-depth analysis. Initially, I said the analytical one is very much in-depth. Emphasis is to be placed on the effectiveness of the piece as a whole. So it's overall kind of scenario assessment criteria. Now, if you look into the analytic rubric, so that's what we practice at the University of Malaya. We used to practice out University of Malaya, 2-dimensional level of achievement as columns and assessment criteria as rows. So our assessment criteria will be described in the rows and our level of assessment will be in the columns. Can assign different weight values to the different criteria and include an overall achievement by totaling the criteria. So we have different levels could be in the various descriptors. And finally, we sum up and then we total it. And depending on the weightage, we finally convert it to the total mark. Written in tabular form, analytic rubrics offers a number of criteria. So the criteria for each and every descriptor could be minimum 4, maximum 7. It is up to the IHL and it is up to the nature of whether it is IDP, whether it's thesis, it could be 4 or 7, depends on what kind of assessment we are doing on what. Now, the same research paper, if we look from the perspective of analytic rubric, what we will see. Analytic rubric, now you see what difference is there. The criteria. So if I compare this one, the whole thing, each one has come as one row. This is one row, and then we have columns of score. But we have one column is score and then one. Under this one, this descriptors, we have 4 or 5 columns of judgment or grading. That is the difference, and that is the beauty of analytic rubrics. So, knowledge of forms, convention, terminology, strategies, blah, 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 and source subjects, adequate. And one extreme is the adequate minimum, and the excellent one is the thorough and insightful knowledge of forms. So we have this one. So 50 to 90, 59%, and 80 to 100. Again, this depends on each and every institute of higher learning, whether you put it 50 or 59. If your passing mark is 40, you can put it 40, something. In overseas universities, usually the passing mark is 50. And that should be practiced, I think, everywhere. So this 50 to 59 here, and for 80 to 100% is this one. In between, we write. This is limited knowledge of forms. We have some knowledge of forms. We have considerable knowledge of forms, and we have thorough and insightful knowledge. So that's the difference, how we can change the wording to fulfill the requirement of the column. Critical thinking and creative skill, limited effectiveness, high degree of effectiveness, too extreme. Communication and information and idea with limited clarity, degree of clarity and confidence, with high degree of clarity and confidence. So too extreme, and in between you fill in the gaps. Spelling and grammar, very important also. This is also checked. Several errors, no error in between. So we are in fact looking into each and every aspect of the whether it is a thesis the students produced. And if we follow this kind of, I call it a recipe. If we talk about the recipe about cake, so we have so many, the recipe, if we define the recipes, and if we have various our kind of young who are producing the cakes or baking the cakes, if you have give them the recipe, probably the end result will be the same. So here also, we are giving the same thing and different lecturers. We have 10 lecturers following the same format, and ultimately the students are not, their grading is more or less at par with each other. If there are 100 students in the class, so each students are graded according to this format, and we make sure that no students is either misjudged or deprived or given low marks. So this is how, that's why the rubric, we talk about rubric, and rubric is very, very important and the most important nowadays, in addition to the marking scheme and the final. So this is how we develop. So this is the one which we have to write. Also the criteria, depending on the thesis, it could vary depending on the IDP, depending on the short, let's say the assignment or any work. So we can have these different aspects. Not necessarily it has to be this one. This is to certain research paper. It will change as our outcome or the end product is changed. Analytic rubrics highlight specific areas of strength and weakness. Very important. We can, so if we get the feedback, let's say the students are weak here, then we can take measure to improve the students, and so that next time they do better in this aspect. So we can pinpoint the weakness of the students and also the strength of the students. Criteria can be weighted to emphasize the relative importance. Comparison of numerous rubrics may show progression geared towards more reliable means of scoring. This is very, very more reliable. And also I call it this, the band of error among the lecturers. It becomes shorter and smaller and smaller if we follow the rubrics. But if we leave it to the perception of the lecturer, the lecturer's perceptions could be different from one to another. So that will vary. Supplementary use in writing process can increase writer's confidence and awareness criteria. Disadvantage, reliability depends on well-defined criteria. We must have a well-defined criteria. No sufficient proof of improvement of writing. Effective rubrics take time. So that's very important, take time. That means if we have a rubric generated, created for one session, we have to keep it running. At the same time, you have to keep it improving. Effective rubrics take time, trial and error, perseverance to create. So we have some patience to create. So rubrics take time. Whatever we produce, that's never final. We have to improve from time to time. Consider using analytic rubric when emphasis of assessment is feedback. You get the feedback of the students. Time allows for in-depth analysis of the work. Criteria needs to be explained. So these are the aspects. So in between the two, I think the analytic rubrics can be used for grading and also assessing the students' outcome-based learning in this OBE dynamics, OBE system. Why rubrics in education provide students with feedback that's clear, directed, and focused. Increase the students. I have to go quick. I think the time is not that, probably I have now. So this is what we have. So rubrics, and then focus the efforts. Let me show you step 1, how to getting started with rubrics. How do you start rubrics? Step 1, step 2, that what I've shown before. How to write the description, how to write the performance criteria, how to write the scoring criteria. 3 different things: scoring criteria, performance criteria, and description. So that is step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. And step 5 finally is the verification, pilot test the rubric with few sample papers, and get feedback from your colleagues. Revise the rubric. And developing rubrics for engineering education, identify the purpose and aims, identify what you want to assess, select the appropriate rubrics, identify the performance criteria that your assessment will be graded against. It could be now developing rubrics for engineering education. It may be more useful to use scale. So I'm quickly passing. I want to show the rubrics for our test the rubric, put the rubrics into application, revise the rubrics from time to time, and the option. I have brought also the Abbott scenario. I am skipping this one as the time will not permit me. So the focus, this I'm skipping. I have the IDP rubrics. This is the integrated design projects from the University of Malaya, which we used to practice and is still being practiced. The final report, it has got the moderator part 130 marks and the supervisor part 105 marks, and then finally it is translated into 100 marks. And the part A and part B. Part A is the final report, technical investigation, project management, ethics and standard, very important, communication, sustainability. And on the poster and demo, we also have the poster and demo presentation where we invite IIP panels. They also judge the students. We invite IIP panels, the students make a poster presentation, they ask questions, and they also give their grading. Ethics and standard. And for the supervisor, teamwork, weekly meeting, very important. The weekly meeting is conducted every week with the groups. Then project management, economic ethics and standard, communication, sustainability. And I have given here details, in this all the tables, final report, for the moderator. And again, these are the description. When you talk about the final report, technical investigation comprises of technical investigation and use of modern tools. So not competent, very poor, and excellent, demonstrate extremely high competency in the technical investigation. So this 2 extreme band we have in between 2, 3, 4. So if you have this recipe, it's easy for the lecturer to grade, to judge, and it is uniform throughout the students. That is very important. In OBE must ensure uniformity in grading, uniformity assessing. The lecturer has got enough responsibility, enough task. It's not that for his own perception he will grade. It has to grade according to some standard given format, and that's what the rubric does to the lecturer. This is one, and these are all. So I'll share the slides, so no problem. You can have a look at it later on. And this is from the supervisor's perspective. 10 marks. So ultimately, these are all here. Supervisor perspective, all aspects. So it is covered every nook and corner of the IDP. Whatever the assessment question may have, we have covered more or less every aspect. We have touched each and every corner. If I say in theoretically, each and every corner of that, so that we grade students properly, and finally students are happy with what they get. That we must ensure to the students that what you have been doing, grading is perfect and to your most satisfaction. So I'm covering. This is also, we look at the Turnitin similarity index. This is very important nowadays, whether the students are producing copy things. So similarity index, if it is within 40%, very poor, less than 10%, we give excellent. So this is very important. This is very important nowadays because of this too much internet access and YouTube. So we must have this element also in this, whether it is thesis or this IDP kind of thing. Similarity index we must check. And so again, so I'm quickly definition of complex problem. This is I am given for just for the benefit. We look into the complex problem solving aspect, also taken consideration considered into the IDP scenario, complex engineering activities, the knowledge profile, and probably that's all. Thanks a million. So I could have done it more clearly if I could have got more time. Anyway, with the limited time, whatever I wanted to say. The essence I've given, the rubrics, main difference is the analytic and the holistic, and the application of the analytic is more recommended for our educational exercise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Imtiaz, for very, loaded slides and information and elaborate presentation on the rubrics. I guess the organizer will share some of the slides with the participant later on if you want to go into detail. I guess we maybe have some time for one or two questions. I would like to allow the two participants who raised the hand. Do you want to ask the question? I think one is Tanvir. Is he allowed to ask question? Yeah, Mr.
Yes.
MD. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Please, what is your question?
Yeah. Mr. Tanvir, you raise your hand.
Are you here?
Mr. Tanvir, you can ask your question. Unmute yourself first.
No. Okay. Okay, while waiting, Prof. Imtiaz, of course you touched this in passing, issue of this validity and reliability of these rubrics. I mean, how do you do some analysis to make sure that these rubrics that we design fulfill the validity and reliability, test? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that I didn't touch that one, reliability part. That we have to test from, let's say, cohort to cohort. We have one batch, and then we look into the grading aspect and all these things, and whether it is in terms of the reliability, the achievement is 90% or 95%. That one probably not done. Not done at the. We have practicing this one, and we see more or less the similar kind of feedback from the students, and we think that more or less it is accepted. But in terms of the, if I say statistical analysis with the data, that probably not done. But that's very good question. I think we can make sure that statistically also it is valid.
Okay, there is one question. You touched a little bit more. Maybe you need to elaborate on this. What is the cut-off point to disqualify a thesis in terms of plagiarism? What is the rule of thumb here?
Rule of thumb here means you are talking about where I'm sitting here now?
No. Normally, I mean, in your rubrics, how do you decide whether a thesis is plagiarized or not based on your rubrics?
The plagiarized, we look into the Turnitin first thing, Turnitin, and then also we look at the overall score. If it is very low, let's say it's 30% or scoring is total 30. Okay. And plagiarism we can look at.
I think there is a question from the participant. How do you decide whether it's 30% is good or not? So
yeah, that's a very relative or qualitative type of question. 30% is.
Prof. Faris, actually, Professor Dr. Muhammad Mahbub has raised his hand. He's in the panel. If you kindly allow him.
Yeah.
Okay, Professor Mahbub, please.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everybody. And a big thanks to Imtiaz Bhai. You made an excellent presentation. And I think you joining the university will only benefit all of us. Now, I have a very small question. I was listening to your presentation on and off while I'm working from my office. And towards the end, you actually said that this was one of my points, that the students know. You didn't actually say that students know, but that students are satisfied because probably they know in advance what they're supposed to, how they're supposed to perform and how it will be evaluated. So I think this is only fair for the students to know in advance that how much they have to do or what they have to do in order to get, let's say, A or B or C. So that eliminates a scope for their discontent. Now, my point is, at the end of the day, part of this evaluation is, even if in the rubrics, you wrote down the criteria and showed them the criteria in advance, but still there is a component of subjective evaluation. Don't you agree? And then how to make it more like, how do you transfer? I know that the grading is eventually in a range. It's not something concrete, like you get 65 or 66, but you get something between, you know, within a range. But I mean, how do you compare between an objective criteria and the subjective criteria?
Objective, our objective is what we have given. So whenever we, all this information, all the criteria, whatever has been shown in the table, that is given to the students, that whenever you produce write-up, you must include all these aspects. That's one thing. You must produce, so the requirement, what we require to be produced in the final, let's say IDP project, that is clearly given to the students. Let's say ethics, something. So whenever we look at the report, we look whether all these aspects are there or not. If not, then accordingly they get their grade. Now, in terms of the objective, our objective is to, we make sure that these our set objectives, you play with these objectives, you fulfill all these objectives. If you not, then your grade will be not up to your satisfaction. That's what we do. And in terms of the subjectives, overall we look at, and we also listen to the presentation. That's we know. They have a group presentation, they come, each and everyone presents, and there we know whether the students have done the work or not. And also we have weekly meeting with the students. So we know who is contributing, who is not contributing. So this is a very clear check and balance is there, and we know which one is performing well, which is not performing well. And then finally, this rubric is there. So it's not only rubric, and also throughout the semester, 2 semesters, we look each and every students and their contribution through the meeting each and every week. And also their poster presentation also we ask the students. In last time, I remember one poster presentation in another group, I was the moderator. I asked the students, simply didn't do anything, just produce from the internet kind of thing, and was caught. So that check and balance, it depends on the commitment from the lecturers. What I think, this commitment from the lecturer, they must ensure that they're doing their job properly. If it is done, then I think all subjective, objective things will be met. Am I clear?
Okay, Professor Imtiaz, I think thank
Yes.
you very much.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I just want to clarify, or maybe, I mean, you don't have to respond, but when I said objective, I meant objective evaluation. Like, you know, in maths is very much possible. Yeah. You do correct answer, you know, and you get full marks or whatever. But anyway, I'm happy with the response. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Dr. Muhammad Mahbubur, and also Professor Imtiaz for commenting on this issue. Of course, based on our experience also, this one also takes some time where the understanding of among the lecturers must be there. They must understand the system and the rubric, as well as, of course, it's good for the students to know beforehand, maybe at the beginning of the semester, how they are going to be evaluated. So thank you very much, Professor Imtiaz, for a very good presentation and discussion. So now let us move to our last presentation for this afternoon. We have Dr. Azharul Karim, an associate professor at the Faculty of Engineering, Queensland University of Technology, Australia. He will be speaking on aligning learning outcomes, subject content, and assessments. Let me just briefly read his biography. Dr. Azharul Karim is currently working as an associate professor at the Queensland University of Technology, Brisbane. He has authored more than 200 peer-reviewed articles, including 118 journal papers, 13 peer-reviewed book chapters, and 5 books. His papers have attracted more than 5,700 citations with an H index of 39. He is also the editor and board member of at least 6 reputed journals, including Drying Technology and Nature Scientific Reports. Dr. Azharul Karim has supervised 19 PhD students to completion. He has been keynote distinguished speaker in more than 20 international conferences and invited keynote speakers in 22 reputed universities worldwide, including Oxford University and National University of Singapore. He is the recipient of numerous national and international competitive grants amounting to more than $3.15 million. Dr. Azharul Karim is the inventor of energy and water efficient ultrasonic washing machine and ultrasonic dishwasher. Both he holds the patents for them. He is the course leader for Master of Engineering Management and a member of Faculty of Engineering Academic Board. His current research areas are multi-scale modeling of food drying, nanofluid solar thermal storage, concentrating PV thermal collector, lean healthcare systems, and project-based learning in engineering studies. So with that credential, I would like to invite our speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Azharul Karim, to deliver your presentation. The floor is yours, Doctor.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Ahmad Faris, for your kind words. And thanks for giving me, the organizers, to giving me a chance to talk in this reputed conference. I want to add a couple of things in my introduction background. I was graduated from Chittagong University of Engineering and Technology, CHUET. And after my graduation, I worked a couple of years as a lecturer there. And I did my Master's of Engineering from National University of Singapore before moving to Australia for PhD. So from my background, you already know that I am not an expert in engineering education or Washington Accord. So I'll just share some of my teaching experiences. Good news is that I made a mistake. When I was contacted about the conference, I was told that there will be 10 minutes for presentation. So yeah, my preparation is for 10 minutes. I'll not keep you bored for a long time. And thanks, Professor Imtiaz, taking about 10-15 minutes from me. That's good news. Okay, so probably I'll share my screen. Okay, the topic I will be talking about today is aligning learning outcomes, subject content, and assessments. Now, when we develop a new program or new course, for example, Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering, so we have to have some set goals. What we want these graduates to achieve. What is the graduate outcomes the students will get after this completion of the course or program? Now, those goals need to be set, or aims, or graduate outcomes, whatever is said. And in this left bottom corner, you can say teaching and learning activities. So you have to develop our courses. We call it here units. So these units or courses or subjects should achieve this goal. Probably not one unit can achieve everything. So have to overall, this should achieve the aim of the unit course. And there must be a method to assess them. How do you assess that the students are achieving these graduate capabilities or skills? So this is at program level. Here we call it course. And in the subject level, here we call it unit. So I might be confused you when I say this unit and course. So these need to be properly designed. So the units or courses should be, subjects should be carefully designed so that we can achieve the goals of the program. And this for this course level, sorry, subject level or unit level, the learning outcomes, we have to determine what knowledge and skills, abilities, values will students demonstrate after their graduation. And to achieve that, for each subject, you have to have some learning objectives. And then you have to design these subjects, content, teaching, and assessment to achieve these. And there's always should be some feedback loops. This learning outcome is a very, very clear and specific statement that identifies what students must demonstrate at the end of the standard and at the level and standard required to successfully pass their study. So this need to be clearly defined. I can share an example here from program to subject level. For example, this is as I said, we say the course level learning outcomes. So for this specific course, here are 5 learning outcomes. Of course, this is a high level descriptions, the discipline knowledge, problem solving, decision making skills, professional communications, and it has some description, apply advanced discipline knowledge, concept, and practices in managing engineering systems and assets, and so on. These are not important details, that's why I'm not going to details. So this is a course level learning outcomes. We call it CLO. For example, course learning outcome 1, course learning outcome 2, and so on. Now, it may have more details. For example, here, you can have a comprehensive theory-based understanding of the underpinning natural and physical systems and the engineering fundamentals applicable to the engineering disciplines, conceptual understanding of the mathematics, numerical analysis, statistics, and computer, and so on. So details, I'm not going to that. So these are the detailed description of each of these high-level learning outcomes. And as I said, this is a program level or course level. When you go to subject or unit level, for example, here is an example. For example, I have taken out the name of the unit, say unit 1. These are the learning outcomes for this unit. And here the course level outcomes. As I have shown here, 5 course level outcomes. It got different color codes. And we have this same similar color code here. So we have to see which learning outcome of the unit satisfies the unit learning outcome of the course. So you have to map it, proper mapping. And in the assessment, what are the assessments? For example, in this particular unit, we had problem solving task and a group project, an exam, and percentages 20%, 40%, 40%. And this assessment satisfies 2, 3, 4, and 5. Here, 2, 3, 4, and 5 learning outcomes. Now, how do we do that? In our traditional teaching, we all know that we have lectures, we have tutorials, and students have reading, we have online materials. So these are the unit content, and there are many ways of delivering. And in the assessment, we have class tests, we have quizzes, we have online tests, we have final exam, we have group project, we have individual projects. Now, have we ever looked at properly and deeply whether students with this our assessment plan or unit content or delivery plan, are they achieving this unit learning outcomes? Are they achieving the course learning outcomes? Now, here in Australia, we have a police officer, which is Engineers Australia. They are the people who provide the accreditation of our courses, and they every 5 years they look at those things, how students achieve these course learning outcome, unit learning outcome, and so there's some way of assessing those. The point of my presentation today is whether we can think beyond these boxes, whether we can do something differently. Now, I will provide a little bit more details with an example of one of the units I run. And I'll share some of the new things we have done to get out of these boxes. Here is the unit. Its name is Lean Manufacturing. And here are some learning outcomes. You don't have to understand all these, and you don't need to. So, for example, one of the learning outcomes is that identify critical process waste in manufacturing and service organizations using some lean tools. One of the tools is value stream mapping. Those who are familiar, you know that. And they have to understand the application of appropriate tools and techniques to minimize those wastes in manufacturing or business organizations. And how do they measure? They have to understand how they measure this. The waste, mostly the process waste and so on. And they have to understand how they apply this in real life situations. These are some learning outcomes. Now, with these, I found the students sometimes struggle to understand the concepts. For example, identifying the wastes and how do you know how that waste takes place. And sometimes they even struggle to understand the cycle times, these sort of things. Because really these units are very real life oriented. If they don't see the practical system, they cannot visualize. I can give you an example here. For example, a simple process, we make a product which goes through 3 processes, 1, 2, and 3. First process takes, for example, 1 minute, second one 1.5, and third one half a minute. If I ask you a question, how long it takes to make a product, then many of you will say, well, 1 plus 1.5 is 2.5 and 0.5 is 3 minutes in the first case. And if I take another process, in the second case, 3.25 minutes. You're right and you're wrong. If it's a one product, it's right. When we make continuously products, actually every product takes, in first case, 1.5 minutes, and in second case, 1.25 minutes. Now, if I tell you that, okay, how long it takes a manufacture a motorcycle, for example, and if I say I can make, or some company makes in every 18 seconds, you'll be most suspicious with me. Have a look on this. I'm sharing a video. Hopefully it works.
We only hear the voice. We only hear the sound, not the video. Dr. Azharul Karim.
Close the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
You have to close the PowerPoint, run it from the file.
We can only hear the sound, yeah, not the video.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You don't see the video?
No.
No.
Okay, give me a second.
I think you just close the PowerPoint and open the video from the file.
Now. Okay, I'm sharing the file now. Hopefully it works.
Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Yes, okay.
Okay, I have to go back to my slides. Okay, you can see the slide where we stop.
Yes, yes.
Okay, now, yes, so now it depends on how do we design the process, and particularly is dictated by the maximum time spent in a single process. So those are the concepts students sometimes struggle to understand. So what we did, we developed a manufacturing simulation process. I mean, before that, I have to say that taking students to industries, all the students to industries and learning those, not easy, particularly in Australia. We have a lot of health and safety issues when you take the students to industries, and industries cannot accommodate so many students, and for mostly for a longer period. So we have developed a simulation method where we actually, in classroom situations, sort of simulate the manufacturing process and make the products. Here we have 2 products, and each product got 3 variations. These different colors, it means different products. And this different color means again 3 different products, and different sizes means again 2 different types of products. So every time we have new product, we have to change the setup. Now, students have to make them. These are just from Lego blocks. You can see that. And from the Lego box, they have to assemble it. And then they identify how they calculate the process time, how they calculate the cycle time, what are the wastes take place, these sort of things they have to identify. And in this process, we will have 5 workstations. So you can see this workstation 3, 1, 5, 4, 2. And these are the manpower we need. So this is the setup of this process we start with. You can see that here are the raw materials. It comes to workstation 1, then it comes to workstation 2 and goes to 3, 4, and 5. So it's not very well organized, but that's the process we start with. And we tell them that these are the not Lego blocks. You know, Australia is a mining dependent country, not a lot of mining is happening. So I said, well, these products are considered the mining products, heavy gearboxes. So you have to handle carefully, and transport is, you need help for transporting. So this sort of a concept we give in the beginning And you might be wondering why this process is very unorganized. Basically, what that really happens in the industry. They have many reasons have this sort of unorganized process flow. Here is an example. This is a process flow chart of a real life organization in Brisbane. And initially, when we investigated, we found that there is a lot of unnecessary movement of the products and from center to center. You can find the details of this one of our published papers in the bottom. You can see that. So we start with that, and two workstation got some devices or machines. They need to be change the setup. For example, in that case, if they have bigger product, they use that, and for smaller product, they have to reset, bring it hit here, is shown here, and put this block in that box, and they have to assemble the product. And here's another, we call it workstation 4 or machine 2. Again, for different color of products, they have to change the setup. So this, now here is a customer order. And for example, in the first order, 5 green and 5 red. If every time I have, make 5 green, I have to change the setup. So we thought probably this is a better way to minimize the setup time. So 10 big, 10 small red, and so on. And this is the production schedule. And after running those, the interesting data is here. You don't have to understand that those things who are not in this area. So this is the cycle time for each workstation. And summary is all are high, and most importantly, very different for different groups. So now that shows the importance of finding a standard work time. And in this unit, they learn it. And you can see there are a lot of variations in cycle time. And the two machines and utilization is very low. So the students, one of the tasks for the students was to determine the bottlenecks and suggest for the next simulation what the improvements can be made. So they have worked on it, brainstorm, they study the literature, and they look at the lecture notes and come up with some suggestions. For example, here.
Okay, Dr. Azharul Karim.
Yes.
Can we wrap up in about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes? Yeah.
Okay. Now, here are some of the concepts they come up with, suggestions. The problems they found. Here are the suggestions they come up with. For example, they say U-shaped layout and use Kanban and so on. And then they come up with this sort of layout and a lot of changes in the production process and working principles. And you can see here the 3 run of this. In the first run, they cannot produce any product. In 15 minutes time, they cannot produce anything. In second run, they produce 55 products. Target was 80, and they made some profit here. First case, they lost. In second case, they made some money. In third case, improvement, they made a lot of money. And world standard is $30 per product cost. And first case, we cannot have any output because we didn't produce anything. Second case, it was higher than world average. And in third case, it was 27.3, which is lower than even this all level. So this was very helpful for the student to understand. There are some student feedback we survey the students, and this is one of the responses where students thought that they strongly agreed that simulation has improved their understanding of the practical aspect of lean manufacturing and so on. And they also, there's some feedback about me, and average we got 4.7 feedback from the students. So students highly rated this simulation model. So there's a summary is, yes, we have to think about different ways, innovative ways of teaching. We have to get out of the box of lecture, tutorial, and exams, and there should be some ways. And here is one we have done similar, not this one, there are different, develop a new method for project-based learning, and our work has been published in a very good journal, curriculum journal. I think that's all I have, and thanks very much again.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Azharul Karim. I just want to check with the organizer because it's now already 12 o'clock Bangladesh time. Do we have time for question or we need to wrap up here?
We need to, Prof, we need to wrap because we have another session and we need to have 1 hour break. So
all right, okay.
Any
Okay,
question?
before that, just a minute. If anyone is interested about the work we have done, please contact me. I'm happy to share our experience in that method. Please contact me.
Okay, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers, especially the last speaker, Dr. Azharul Karim, and also the 2 previous speakers for their participation. And since we are out of time, I would like to encourage the participants to interact directly with the speakers if you need further explanation or further discussion. So with that, I would like to thank also the audience for your active participation and interaction. And again, thank you, the organizer, Ahsanullah University of Science and Technology, for arranging such a session. So thank you very much. I pass the session back to Dr. Rizauddin, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Faris, as a session chair. We came to the end of the session number 3. Now we'll adjourn this session and we will start again our session at 1 p.m. for Bangladesh time, and for Malaysian will be at 3 p.m. After the prayer lunch, Malaysian time, 3 p.m. Okay, I think that's all for today. Thank you. For now, we'll continue back at 1 p.m. Assalamualaikum.